I want you to know that wherever you are, it's okay not to know what's coming next. It's okay not to have all of the answers. It's okay to have moments of doubt or moments where you call things into question. Without those moments, how can we possibly learn or discover new things? How can we expand the limits of what we perceive to be possible? How can we see past our limitations or boundaries which we've imposed upon ourselves or picked up from others without realizing it? For those of you familiar, this is the Glastonbury Tor, and I'm working my way slowly to the top. And it's a place I have a great amount of appreciation for, because it reminds me every time that whilst there is value in walking to the top and being able to perceive the landscape from a much higher perspective, there's also a reasonably brisk walk required to get to that point. And it may not be the most difficult walk out there, but for me it's symbolic of much of the perspectives that we hold, which tend to be something to the effect of a promise of relief that comes with achieving a goal, or promise of everlasting happiness or financial abundance when one arrives at a certain point in their life. But there's a large amount of ignorance to the process, to the journey itself. And nowadays we live in a world where many people are either unable, unwilling, or unaware of the journey. And what I mean by that is, wherever there's instant gratification, there isn't really there's no requirement for us to become anything different. We can literally have whatever we want. And if you can have whatever you want without having to become any different, then where does your sense of appreciation come from? Where does your sense of awareness of your ability to go through the process of change to achieve the things that you want come from? Or are you simply just living a life where you're moving from one pleasure to the next with moments of lack or need or emptiness in between them? And what's the value of a life like this, you could say? I wonder if maybe these things have emerged to encourage us and to remind us of the value of undertaking a journey. Because undertaking a journey isn't about the amount of effort that we have to physically exert to get to the top of a hill in this instance, or the amount of time we need to sit in our car to drive somewhere far away, or the amount of exercise we have to do to change the way that our bodies look. It's a reminder of the fact that we are constantly able to recreate ourselves. And it's said that God created man in his own image, but it's also said in many spiritual texts that God is us. We are the creator, and we are the creator of our experience. No one else creates the experience that we're having but us. And our experience is shaped by the views and the perspectives we have of the world. And the spiritual path is one whereby we are able to see behind these perspectives to the truth of who we are, which is independent of those things. And with that knowledge, we're able to reform and reshape our perspectives consciously in ways that serve us, in ways that serve the people around us, and in ways that allow the things that we truly want into our lives without the sense of lack or guilt or shame that so much of the time is attributed to the success and the abundance and the joy that everybody deep down desires. And we see this so much playing out in our relationships, in the way that we view health, money, work. I think for me those are the four main ones. And wherever there is a worldview or a perspective that says this thing is not meant for me, or the thing that's meant for me is the thing I don't want, then our result is only going to be a reflection of that. And it's only a reflection of the worldview that we have. And in every moment we have the opportunity to change that. And I say this sometimes to people and they'll say, yeah, but how? Well, what's the purpose of telling you how if you don't believe it's possible? You have to start by considering that it's possible to change your worldview. And logically speaking, the easiest way to do that is to just look at the way that your life has unfolded. Look at the way that you perceived the world when you were a child, or when you were a teenager, or when you were a young adult. How the worldview that you have may have changed when you fell in love, or got married, or had kids, bought your first house, or flew on an airplane for the first time, or drove a car, or any of these things. And all of a sudden you go from being the person who isn't a husband to the husband, or the person who can't ride a bicycle to the person who rides a bicycle every day. It sounds like in the grand scheme of things maybe a little bit simplistic and meaningless, but really a perspective is just an awareness that something is possible or that something exists in a certain way. It doesn't mean it's absolutely true. In the absolute sense, nothing is true. Everything is up for grabs. Everything can be changed. But if that isn't known, if we're not aware of that, then what's the point of knowing how? What's the point of giving you 5 steps to achieve financial freedom if you don't even believe that you're worthy of having a job? What's the sense in giving you the 3 ways to attract the perfect partner if you don't perceive it to be possible? So we have to start at the basic level. And the basic level is considering that all of the things that you hold to be true about this world are simply perspectives, assumptions, and that it's possible for you to pull at the thread of those things through inquiry and reflection, through conversation, if you're so inclined, to see where what you perceive to know finds its end, where its limit is, and then to step with courage through that limit into the unknown space where you don't know what's going to come next, where you don't know necessarily who you are in that moment, and where you are then free to recreate something of your choosing. And that's why we call it a practice. That's why it's called anything of value is called a practice. We undertake the practice of spiritual development. And yes, on the one hand, the practice is not necessary, because we get to a point where we realize that it's not about understanding how to make ourselves better as people. It's about understanding that we are unlimited potential that can be expressed in any form we so desire. But I think that has to have a meaningful application, otherwise what's its value? What's the value of knowing that you're infinite? The old analogy of Netflix paralysis, when you go on Netflix and you have an infinite amount of films to choose from. How do you know which one you need to choose? How do you know which one you want to watch? There's still an option for you to make a choice, even knowing that there's so much choice available. No one else can make that choice for you. So we find ourselves at the point where we're aware that other possibilities exist, but then we have the opportunity to choose. And if we choose, and it's a choice that doesn't continue to serve us, then we make a different choice. So many of us don't choose. I don't believe it's because we don't know what we want. It's because we don't believe we deserve it. We don't believe it's possible for us. So we daren't move in the direction of the things that we want because deep down we don't believe that it's ever going to happen. And this is where the mentality of grinding and hustling and working really hard and exerting huge amounts of effort comes in, because really that's a reflection of that person's belief about how their world appears to them. And if your world appears to you like a fight, then you have to become a warrior. If your world appears to you like romance, then you become a lover. If your world doesn't make sense to you, then you have to become the mystic. And so on and so on and so on. And so whatever attracts us currently is only a reflection of how we see the world. And if we truly believe that the things that we wanted were available to us, then most of us wouldn't seek to develop ourselves. We wouldn't be called to look in the direction of something more. We wouldn't look for greater, more expansive perspectives. But the fact is, because we don't have what we want, because we recognize in some way that we may not feel deserving or worthy of it, we're called to work on ourselves. We're called to expand our perspectives. And with that expanded perspective, we can see much further. And it may be the case that the things that we thought we wanted weren't even that important. What we really wanted is just to feel a sense of freedom, or a sense of possibility, or a sense of peace, or love, or maybe all of those things. Maybe it's the case that we just wanted to know what a different perspective feels like, and to try on all of these different clothes and different hats, and see which one fits in a way that feels good for us. And there isn't a one-size-fits-all approach to life. Everybody is here as a unique expression. That doesn't mean that there isn't some universality in the process of how expression happens, or in how we discover the truth of what we are and how to create from that place. But it just means that we're free to create what we want. And from that place of freedom, no one creates pain. No one consciously creates pain or suffering or poverty or sickness, because no one truly seeks these things. But we experience these things because at some level we're told that's normal. At some level we're conditioned to believe that life is this really hard experience that we have to struggle through and work really hard not to get paid enough to be miserable, and then we die. And yeah, that's not true. I mean, it's true if you believe it's true, but really it's not true. And my invitation here is to just to consider that. Consider how that feels, how it would feel for you to know that everything in your life that causes you pain, or everything in your life that doesn't serve you, can be changed. And you have the power to change it. No one else can change it for you. No one else can make it worse or better but you. And you might not know how, but you'll get to that. What's important to know is to know that you can. So live today with a bit more possibility. Live today with a bit more reflection. And be open to new discoveries.